So when he says, when the questioner says, and what is death? He's very beautiful here, I think, Maharaj. It is the change in the living process of our particular body. Integration ends and disintegration sets in. No, what a way to put it. What a way to put it. Very holistic in the most non-New Agey sense I can think of. And even the integration, I wish he had described that a little bit further, because you would probably see that the integration to which he is describing is not necessarily our, self-help, society-oriented, let me see how this fits into my plethora of mindsets kind of integration. Although there might be a bit of that in there, he's talking from a far broader outlook. Integration ends and disintegration sets in. The disintegration sets in part is a portion which is such a mystery to us, especially here in the West. We are so closed off, not only from the notion of death itself, but from just the way in which the processes, the balance of life and nature, very automatically and all by themselves take care of everything. That it is very, very difficult for people to really use death not only as a tool for making life, their moment by moment existence, seem so alive, really, but also for really pulling apart the causality of a supposed individual's existence. By causality, in this sense, what I'm trying to refer to is the way in which everything that begins comes to an end, and seeing that as a part of the reality, and the reality that is that is going to be taken on, and not necessarily in fearing it or pushing it away or trying to not, you're not obsessing over it necessarily, but to not even give it a place at the table when it's the only thing that truly can be certain of on the journey, is something that requires so much concerted effort, so much concerted mental gymnastics, so much energy which could be spent in so many more profitable ways. It's like standing in front of a steam train and holding onto the grill with your hands and bracing your feet into the tracks and saying, no, I'm just going to look down at the ground. If I look down at the ground, the train's not going to move. There is no surer train that is going to move than one's death, or than the process of the body aging, dying, and decaying within the storyline. And it is because we are so attached, as I said before, to the body, that we are so attached to the notion of A, not wanting to even think about it happening, or B, just wiping that entire scenario off of our collective mental plates, that we just can't see how much it's potentially harming our own inquiry. You're not going to get this. You are not going to get what's going on until you get past your own death. That's as simply as I can put it. This entire journey, whether it be the physical journey or whether it be the spiritual journey, ends with your death. And if you can't even bring yourself to think about or contemplate that finality, that assured finality, you're not going to get to the other side of it. Oh, you will get to the other side of it. It's going to happen. You will die. But I'm talking about before your own death. What you are truly looking for, everything you've ever truly looked for, ever, is on the other side of your own death. It's just a matter of whether you start to pry it apart before you're strapped up in the hospital, or when the moment finally comes that that body slips away. So, it is change in the living process of a particular body. Integration ends and disintegration sets in. But what about the knower? Okay, so again, this is assuming that the knower is attached in the way in which we attach. You know, the person. There must be a person inside my mind. There must be a person inside my brain, and that's who I really am. All these thoughts. You know, this is the kind of question that would come about from that. So what's going to happen to the questioner within all my thoughts when the body falls away? And whether or not this questioner is still at the stage of believing they are the thoughts in their mind or not, the question can be taken either way. What about the knower? With the disappearance of the body, does the knower disappear? The other way of saying that, if you are attached to thinking you are the thoughts in your head, once the body is gone, will the thoughts in my head continue that I've identified with? Maharaj, just as the knower of the body appears at birth, so he disappears at death. And nothing remains, life remains. That's a great juxtaposition too there. Because, and it's almost an optical illusion. You can look at that set of phrases in a couple of ways. And nothing remains, life remains. Consciousness needs a vehicle and an instrument for its materialization. When life produces another body, another knower comes into being. Is there a causal link between the successive body knowers or body minds? Maharaj, yes. There is something that may be called the memory body or causal body, a record of all that was thought, wanted, and done. It is like a cloud of images held together. Well, really, all of our memories. That's what he's describing there, even though they're taking it in a larger sense here. What are the memories? But really, like this vapor, this cloud that, depending upon your concentration upon them, gets stronger and stronger until they can block out really your field of vision. You can be seeing just fine, taking in all. The eyes are working perfectly. The sense data is entering and being translated by the mind, and yet the attention is so focused upon these vapors of memory that it's almost like you're not seeing what's happening in front of you. You're seeing the vapor instead and putting your attention there instead. So what he's describing about that cloud of memories I like, because really we're all consistently letting ourselves be clouded in by a fog of memories. What is this? Excuse me. What is this sense of a separate existence? Maharaj, it is a reflection in a separate body of the one reality. It is a reflection in a separate body of the one reality. Now here we're starting to get into the realm of there is only one quote-unquote experiencer. There is only one quote-unquote knower. In other words, the bodies are needed to experience, but ultimately this witnessing faculty, this I sense, is not an individual I sense. It is one. It is one. And the knower, the body, has been so fooled by consciousness because it is so strong. I mean, when I'm saying the knower and the body, I'm talking about this individual body has been so taken by this I sense and the credibility lended to the I sense because it is so strong and so believable that they have transposed their own personal existence onto that I sense. That sense of I is me, this personal being, this personal body. Instead of realizing, I mean, right at the title of the book, it says I am that, but we've already discussed how what's truly being pointed at is that is what the I is. The entirety of existence the beingness itself, the inclusion of all bodies and all animals and all experiences and all that can arise. That's the that. And the I sense is the that. That is what the I is. Not the teeny little puny body with the mind that is sort of subjugated and taken over and sort of stolen for itself that I sense as a personal identity. And again, this is a difficult thing for people to grasp because their entire lives, as experience has arisen, that I sense has been there. And so they've quite naturally, in a sense, taken on that I sense to be their personal I sense. It's personally, when I feel alive, that's me feeling alive. That feeling aliveness is me in my body. And every other body is feeling a different I sense. They have a different I sense there, and it's not. It's one sense, one I. It is a reflection in a separate body of the one reality. In this reflection, the unlimited and the limited are confused and taken to be the same. How about that? The unlimited and the limited are confused and taken to be the same. It's a much simpler way of saying what I just tried to say for the last few minutes. To undo this confusion is the purpose of yoga. Questioner. Does not death undo this confusion? Maharaj. In death, only the body dies. It's almost, that just sounds so, I mean, seeing our attachment to life and to death and to not wanting anything to change whatsoever, let alone, the body die and decay. Here he is, this great question. So does not death end the confusion? And Maharaj is just like, it's just the body that dies. It's like, what's the big deal? I mean, it really is putting it in its proper perspective. That's not just the result of realization. That's the result of living in a culture where death is a part of life and not denied. In death, only the body dies. Life does not. Consciousness does not. Reality does not. And the life is never so alive as after death. Wow. Why don't you pin that one to your mirror in the morning? In death, only the body dies. Life does not. Consciousness does not. Reality does not. And the life is never so alive as after death. Now, the temptation with a phrase like that in the West is to maybe even get a little bit of our those who might have jitters from attachments to monotheistic religious ties from the past might have trouble with that or bad memories because, again, as its own form of death denial or life denial, quite often in monotheistic religions, such an emphasis is placed upon the afterlife or an afterlife and how great it's going to be or how heavenly it's going to be, how the paradise-like nature that not only is life denied as it's happening, a complete striving towards future and a mentalized future at that, that this is not necessarily something that's not been heard before, but it's not been heard in a completely different way. And what I mean by that is, while Maharaj will certainly ask one to question one's body and one's attachment to one's body to the nth degree in order to see what's truly going on, it's not necessarily a denial of the body, it's a denial of the identification with the body, and not in any sort of a psychologically dismissive way. And yet at the same time, the key word in that phrase is life is never so alive as after death. although I know I've heard the word alive used often in various kinds of descriptions of afterlives or whatever, or near-death experiences, or promises of what a heaven must be like. The way in which he's using the word alive here is extremely grounded. Grounded in a way that it's almost tying it to the so-called experience that's happening now, even though it's, in a sense, pointing to beyond the experiencing of the body. And what I mean by that is, it's a new life or a new heaven and a new earth. It's life is never so alive. Well, life is what's being lived right now, and yet after the body falls, life is still being lived, and yet it was never so alive. So I don't want to get too much into semantics with this, but you should take that as an amazing pointer towards how to look at the way in which your life is being lived. And I don't necessarily mean, how am I living my life, or beating oneself up about what you're doing or not doing. I'm talking about the experiencing of living, the actual experiential portion of it, where your attention is going. That's what I'm saying, that this line, when I read that and was, that first time out, that's what I was, getting thrilled by. That it is a tie not only to one's experience now, even with a body, but it's also showing you a clue, or giving you an incentive to look even further into those processes of experiencing. All right, now here comes the big one. But does one get reborn? Reincarnation. Does one get reborn? Maharaj, what was born must die. Only the unborn is deathless. Find what it is that never sleeps and never wakes, and whose pale reflection is our sense of I. There you go. That's the entire argument closed. Right there. Just read that line over and over and over again. What was born must die. Doesn't matter how many times a character is born or isn't born, or debating how many births you have, all that. The point is to find what's beyond death. The point is to find what is beyond death. What is beyond the body, what is beyond being born and dying. Only the unborn is deathless. Find what it is that never sleeps and never wakes, and whose pale reflection is our sense of I. Brilliant. How am I to go about this finding out? Maharaj, how do you go about finding anything? I think we shortchange ourselves when it comes to spirituality, in terms of just how far, as individuals, in our storylines, we've gotten in our lives. Someone has been teaching us all along, since we were children, whether it be in a school sense or a socialized sense, and we've taken it all in like sponges, and we've applied what we've applied, and we've learned from our supposed mistakes, and we've learned how to drive. Most of us, and a lot of us have degrees of some nature. We have all kinds of ways in which we figure out how to do things, and yet we show up to the spiritual side of our lives, and it's as if, for a lot of us, we just leave all of that highly developed common sense, for most of us, that we've acquired throughout our lives. We leave it at the door, and we show up just like, huh? Well, what, huh? And part of that is awe, and not, entering a realm that we think we don't know and that we really need guidance in. But, we really do shortchange a great deal of the time our own abilities as a character that we've relied upon our whole lives to pull things apart. We don't even think a lot of the times to use a lot of those skills in this area in which it could be of the utmost benefit for us. How am I to go about this finding out? Well, the same way you've gone about everything else in your life so far, when you've wanted to find something else, if anything, except with, use more gusto, I guess. All right, Maharaj, How do you go about finding anything? By keeping your mind and heart on it. That's great. That is a great piece of advice right there. Interest there must be, and steady remembrance. To remember what needs to be remembered is the secret of success. You come to it through earnestness. All right, if you just read that portion every morning after your sense of beingness arises, and you think there was a yesterday and there's going to be a tomorrow. Once you've gotten out of bed, if you were to just read that, how do you go about finding anything? By keeping your mind and heart on it. Taming that awareness that is just lodging itself to your thoughts and riding you around like a bronco, and continually coming back to your center, and continually coming back, putting your mind back on that, no, I need to look into my processes. Why is this being pulled away? Why are my thoughts dragging me away? Who am I? What's actually going on? Where is that sense of being? What comprises it? Just keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it. You're going to get pulled away. You're going to get distracted. You're going to be tempted to do other things and have your mind go other places. Keep coming back to it. Keep your mind, the thoughts and their content, and where that mind is being aimed, because your mind can be aimed at inquiry. It can be. You can keep turning it back towards inquiry. It doesn't have to be running all over the place. And your heart, in other words, that sense of feeling that you have as you, what you're taking as your emotions, what you're taking as your emotional content, the actual sensing of vibrations as they arise, by keeping your mind and heart on it. Interest there must be, and steady remembrance. You've got to be into this. You've got to be wanting to do it. You've got to be merciless, really, because your attention is just going to have its way with you unless you keep, really make a pact that you are going to continue looking and pulling your attention back time and time and time and time again. Interest there must be, and steady remembrance. To remember what needs to be remembered is the secret of success. You come to it through earnestness. And there we go with the whole, you've got to have, it's not just interest, it's earnestness. This has to be your whole life. This has to be what your source of everything. This is what everything for you has to be based upon. Or else you're just not going to have the fuel or the drive to keep looking. It's as simple as that. And the more earnest you are, the more that this is going to be, it's going to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And it just sort of builds upon itself until you couldn't stop it if you tried. But that earnestness has to be there, that interest has to be there, and you need to have your mind on your thoughts and continually see yourself being pulled away, and just how weak your attention is. Because by seeing it, you're helping to undo that. You've got to see it time and time and time and time again, or else you're just going to keep getting caught up. Keep getting caught up, and it's going to pull apart at your interest and your earnestness. You're going to get caught back up in your day-to-day grind, and you're not going to get very far if that's the case. Do you mean to say that mere wanting to find out is enough? Surely both qualifications and opportunities are needed. Maharaj, these will come with earnestness. Right? Not to get to laws of attraction here with anybody. Nobody will win the lottery before the end of this talk. But you have to show the universe you're serious. And I know this is that last sentence is completely story bound and completely character bound. But that's how it works. That's, a lot of times in the past I've talked about motive and intent. This is motive and intent to the nth degree. Exactly what I'm trying to focus on all the time when I discuss motive and intent. You put it out there and you mean it. You put it all out on the table. And the amount of earnestness, truly meaning it when you say, I want this at all costs. Not just words, not just, some half-remembered quote that you give off, or some mantra words, some things that you happen to repeat. Oh yeah, I mean it. Yeah, I mean it. Oh, I'm in this. No. You've got to put it out there, and you put it out there and the universe will provide you the opportunities. They're there already. They're already. Your dismantling happens every day. You just don't see it as such. You see it as a pain and a burden and what you want to run away from. Probably why a lot of people have run to spirituality in the first place, without realizing that those pains and those burdens are exactly the opportunity to get some stuff knocked out of you, to really start seeing what's going on, to see your own processes. Because it's only when it shakes you up a bit that you really start to look. These will come with earnestness. What is supremely important is to be free from contradictions. The goal and the way must not be on different levels. That is so. That's it right there, and that's why I'm saying you can't be, the house divided. In other words, everything needs to be aligned in your life. Everything needs to be aiming towards inquiry. Even your distractions, which is the first number one battle. Your own personal mental distractions need to be aimed towards inquiry, meaning that the moment you realize you're distracted, you pull yourself back to center. You realign. You can't have 10, 20, 50 different things going on in 50 different directions. Either it's all being aimed towards your pulling apart, or none of it will be. Simple as that. The goal and the way must not be on different levels. Life and light must not quarrel. Behavior must not betray belief. Call it honesty, integrity, wholeness. You must not go back, undo, uproot, abandon the conquered ground. Tenacity of purpose and honesty in pursuit will bring you to your goal. Wow. Read through those again. Call it honesty, integrity, wholeness. You must not go back, undo, uproot, abandon the conquered ground. Tenacity of purpose and honesty in pursuit will bring you to your goal. Questioner. Tenacity and honesty are endowments, surely. Not a trace of them I have. Maharaj. All will come as you go on. Take the first step first. All blessings come from within. Turn within. I am, you know. Be with it all the time you can spare, until you revert to it spontaneously. That's good right there. Turn within. I am, you know. Be with it all the time you can spare, until you revert to it spontaneously. There is no simpler and easier way.